Hi, and welcome to the Coaching Life Podcast. This is Chris Stewart. I'm one of your co-hosts for the podcast. Pat and I wanted to give this particular episode a little different introduction because of something that happened with the audio file after the recording. On this episode, we had a really awesome guest. As you could see from the title, we had Nathan Rourke in from the Ohio University Bobcats football team. And the interview was absolutely incredible. The conversation we had took a lot of different turns and directions. And I think the content that was discussed and the things that Nathan touched on and focused on in our dialogue was not just interesting, but I would say it was important. It was a word that could be extremely valuable to your life, to anyone's life who is listening, and we wanted to point that out. But we also wanted to point it out because when we saved the audio tracks from the interview, for some reason, Nathan's voice did not save. And we can't explain it. We don't know what happened. We went back to do post-production on it. His voice was gone. It's not there. What we were able to do, however, was pull some of the bleed from our two microphones, Pat and I's microphones, where you could hear Nathan's voice, but it just sounds like it's off in the distance. So it sounds like he's sitting in the room and you can hear him, but it does not have the same quality as sitting behind a microphone. And we really apologize to Nathan for that. We apologize to you for that. But what we were able to do was pull that volume up whenever Nathan's speaking, and we think we were able to salvage it enough so that we could preserve this conversation and get it out there to you all. And we just want to make sure to let you know, don't judge this particular episode based on the quality of the sound, because the quality of the sound does not and cannot compare to the content of what Nathan brought us in this conversation. We were very grateful to have him in the studio. I'm extremely grateful to know him. And I know that what he had to say in this episode has the potential to really challenge and inspire many people. So without further ado, here is our conversation with Nathan Rourke. Welcome to the Coaching Life Podcast, everybody. Hi, Pat.
Hey, Coach.
It's my partner, Pat Martin. I'm Chris Stewart. We have a special guest today with us, and our guest is Nathan Rourke, quarterback of the Ohio University Bobcats. Nathan, welcome to the Coaching Life Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, man.
Listen, I like to do a big introduction for everybody we have in as a guest, and there's so many things I could say about Nate, stats, accolades, awards, things like that. And most people, maybe a lot of the people that are listening, they're able to find that. All you got to do is just do a search on Twitter, and you can find, the latest awards and things like that. Here's a stat for you. I want to give you one. You may not even know this. All right. As of today, there are 4 quarterbacks in college football with at least 1,500 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns, 250 rushing yards, and 5 rushing touchdowns. You think you know who those are? Jalen Hurts from Oklahoma.
Tua.
One of them. There are 4 of them. Nope, not Tua.
Hadn't played.
Not Burrow, not Tua. Sam Ehlinger of Texas.
Yeah, okay.
Bryce Perkins, Virginia.
Wow.
Nathan Rourke of Ohio University.
It's good company.
Yeah. It is.
Very good.
Good company. Yeah. So anyway, already this season, Nathan's been named MAC East Division Offensive Player of the Week. You've had that recognition 9 times in your career, which is 3 years here, right? You're on your so 2.5 years really. This season, he was named out of, I believe, 8 quarterbacks, the Manning Award, the Manning Star of the Week Award, and went to the Manning Passing Academy this past summer, which was a pretty awesome experience, I'm sure. And holds Ohio University's record for the most total touchdowns in Ohio University football history. And by the way, he broke that record in week 3. So I think, there is no question that our guest today, Nathan Rourke, will be known as one of the most prolific quarterbacks in Ohio University history. Certainly, even in the Mid-American Conference, I would say as well.
Yep.
And we're proud to have him on and proud to talk to him. But even more so, I'm proud to get to know this brother as a brother in Christ, as a friend, and I want to tell you how I first met Nathan. It's a little funny. Nathan comes to our church. We have several football players that come to our church, and before Nathan came, Brett Kittrell was there, Cole Ireland, Jake Netherton were the first three to show up a couple years ago. And I think it was this past spring, wasn't it? Last spring or in the summertime. Well, in the spring, I went and spoke at Athletes in Action at Ohio University at Peden Stadium. And then shortly after that, you came. And we always have an influx of new students who come typically every Sunday. And so I'll introduce myself to someone and then forget who they are and whatnot. And you know, I watched Nathan play in the past. I don't necessarily look at people's faces. I look at helmets and look at jerseys.
But,
and,
that's the nature of football.
Yeah, I don't necessarily go on and watch all the interviews and things like that. So
Right.
I didn't necessarily know who he was. So nice to meet you. The following week, I'm sitting there, and so he comes back, and we're sitting there having breakfast, and I said, so you obviously play a sport at Ohio University, right? And Brett Kittrell's just sitting there like smiling, like he thinks I'm joking with him. And he goes, yeah. And he was very humble. Nathan was like, yeah, I play football. I'm like, okay, what position? He's like, quarterback. And Brett finally just smacked me. He goes, are you being serious right now? You don't know Air Canada? And I went, oh, yeah. Hey, how you doing, Nathan? And that was a humbling moment for you, wasn't it?
It happens. This isn't like one of those campuses where you get recognized all the time, which is
I doubt that.
no, it honestly doesn't happen very often.
Well, cool.
Huh.
Yeah, so which is cool. I'd rather just be.
But even if it did, though, you'd still say that. I mean, you're yeah, your character definitely is one of such. And that's one of the things I want to say before we get into this. I mean, we're going to talk a lot of sports. It's a sports podcast and everything. But one of the things I got excited about when you agreed to come on was we want people to just know the kind of person you are as well and what's in your heart. And I just mentioned that I met you for the first time at church. You come to our church. I had the privilege of baptizing you not long ago, which was just one of the most awesome experiences of any person's life. And anytime I get a chance to participate in that, I'm grateful extremely. And so yeah, we'll dive in a little bit of all that if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's like a lot of times they talk about accolades and
Right.
on the field, and I'm more than happy to talk about more important things, which are
Yeah.
off the field.
Because we know those drive what happens on the field too. There's no doubt about it. So
Yeah, we always try to do a little bit of research coming into these types of episodes, and I ran across an interview you're doing with, I can't remember it was Draft Blaster or something like that, and they are asking you about something about stats, and you said that too much weight is placed on things you can measure, and not enough into what you can't, and that kind of those types of answers just give you a clue in what kind of person you're dealing with, because you're talking about what kind of teammate you are, what kind of person you are, what kind of leader you are, those intangible assets that so often get overlooked, but it seems like that's the only thing we've talked about on the Coaching Life podcast when people come in to talk about it.
You're talking about the 2019 NFL Draft Diamonds prospect
That's
interview.
Draft Diamonds.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah, good stuff. Nathan, really good to have you on the podcast. Appreciate you joining us. Can you talk about, and one of the things we do here is we want to be a resource for high school students that are making decisions in what college they're going to go to, So we know you've made some transitions in your life and your career. Can you talk about the decision-making process involved with, your journey from Holy Trinity in Ontario, Canada, to Edgewood Academy in Alabama, to the JUCO school, Fort Scott Community College, and then coming here to Ohio University?
Yeah. Well, it's been, as you said, it's been to a couple of different stops to get here, always been pretty goal oriented. Had the dream and aspiration to play in the NFL for as long as I can remember. It really kind of started to materialize when I was in about 9th grade, though, and that's when I told my parents, I said, hey, this is something I want to do. Let's map it out. We got together. We said, hey, well, the first thing we got to do, the best opportunity we're going to get is to go and play in the NCAA, because there's not a lot of even Canadian quarterbacks that get the opportunity to go from CIS, which is Canadian, into collegiate athletics, to go to the CFL. Like, that was a problem when I was in school. And so, like, hey, we got to go to the NCAA. We got to do whatever we can to do that. We went down to camps. this wasn't happening. At the time, weren't really recruiting my area, and they weren't really recruiting me because in high school we play CFL rules. So that might be a little bit off-putting for some college coaches because it's a different game.
Okay.
I mean, wider field, different defenses, it's a whole different game.
Sure.
We can get into that, but so yeah, it wasn't happening, and then just out of the blue, and I say it's out of the blue, but really God gave me an opportunity to go down to Alabama from a guy who I knew, who knew somebody, who knew this coach in Alabama, who had an opportunity for, they had just graduated a senior quarterback, and his son was going to be the starter, but he was a freshman, in 9th grade, so he was undersized, and so it was a really, really good opportunity for a guy to come in like myself, to come in for 1 year and then leave.
Some bridge quarterback.
Yeah. Exactly. And they said, "Are you interested?" And we said, absolutely, sure. And it was in Alabama, and it was in definitely a little bit of a cultural difference there, just in terms of everything. So that was pretty cool. Went to that season. We had a great season. We won state, but then nothing ever materialized from that. We had situations where we were very close with teams. Division I offers that we would talk to. Yes, he said, Coach said, hey, we got to the point really with one school where they said, we're going to offer you this weekend, and then on Monday we found out from the same the director of player personnel that the entire staff had been fired.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
and then Lane Kiffin,
that happens.
I just
Yeah.
gave it away, but it was IU and Lane Kiffin's staff come in, and that's the deal with college. Sports is that college coaches are going off, they're leaving all the time. So we had one of those situations, and then signing day came on February 1st, and I didn't have any offers, and at that point, junior college starts becoming an option, and they start calling, and Fort Scott was the only one where their head coach actually drove from Kansas to Alabama to meet me, which was really cool and really meant a lot to me. My mom, who was staying with me at the time in Alabama, and we flew over there, signed there, and did that, and then went to that season, which was an adventure again. Just that environment, the junior college environment, is definitely difficult for I think a lot of people, and especially for myself as well. And then,
what would you say? What would you say was the most difficult about it? What's some of the difficult aspects? Because junior college is a good when we talk a lot of baseball, and it's a great route for people if they want to if they have big baseball dreams. And a lot of people don't understand that. They don't they look down on JUCO. Like it's beneath them, like it's not a good route. But obviously it was a great route for you. But you knew there were some challenges too. What made it difficult?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Well, I think it's the same in that, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of people go to junior college for academic reasons. Is that correct for baseball as well?
Because they're unable to do well. Yeah. They're unable to get accepted in by the NCAA codes and.
That's true for football too.
That was to my point. Yeah, so there's a lot of different reasons why people go. So there's either academics, or for football, there's issues where people are they're called bounce backs that come from big schools and then they bounce back to college mid-season or whatnot because they don't lose any eligibility and then they go somewhere else. That's the goal. And so you have the combination of local kids who can go to a bigger school. You have a group of people who are bounce backs who are Division I talent, but for some reason or another they can't get the school that they were at. Yeah, I had people on my team it was related to drugs, it was related to things with the law,
probably injuries. Held them back.
And then it was like coaching decisions, they weren't playing. Like we had everything, and then we had kids like myself who just didn't have any offers.
Yeah,
we had all these different personalities.
Yeah, that's a big mix of people right there.
And when you're all trying to go and leave the place that you're at, it's so hard to build any team chemistry.
Yeah,
have a bunch of
it's a springboard. Yeah,
there for themselves, and you're trying to get some kind of team cohesion because when you get, obviously we know that when you are successful as a team, you get individual recognition that comes from it. But when you're trying to get individual recognition that's the first thing.
It's kind of travel baseball.
I see Pat looking at me out of the corner of his eye because he and I talk about this a lot in relation to travel baseball versus high school baseball.
Yeah.
The difference in the camaraderie and the teammates and just the community and high school baseball versus a lot of times the issues you have with travel sports and club sports is that you got a lot of great individual talent out there. But it's hard to create a team out of this.
We probably ruffle some feathers when we talk about things like that.
But it's the truth.
Yeah, I think
it's absolutely the truth.
Hard
yeah.
to deny.
And the other thing was, so you had that dynamic going on, but the other thing is that if there's any other reason that you loved football, or you liked football, you played football, which was maybe the equipment or the perks that you got, or the fans, the recognition, the media attention, none of that existed when I was in junior college.
Mm-mm.
So I tell people,
it's humble beginnings.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, when you go to junior college, you find out if you love football.
Yeah.
Or you love whatever you're doing, whatever sport it might be, baseball, whatever. Because all you have is, and I do school, like I like some of my classes, but I don't particularly love it. But I did school so that I would be able to help my football career. And not everyone is willing to do that. So you don't really love football if you're not willing to do the academic stuff.
Yeah.
So basically, if you're okay with playing in front of 200 people every night, you're okay with no one ever talking about you. If you're okay with not getting a lot of stuff, doing all the stuff that's not glamorous, and you still love football, you're gonna get out. That's the key.
Yeah.
If you're okay with all that stuff that's not there, and I was, and I was fortunate to be able to come to Ohio University to do that.
How'd that happen?
I was able to have a pretty good season to be able to start getting some offers, and started with some FCS schools, and then it came down to here in another MAC school, and visited both schools, and like I kind of through my recruiting process in high school with the coaches that left and all these different things that were going around. My junior college coach, he went to Kansas. He played football at Kansas, and he had, I think, 3 different head coaches and like 4 or 5 different position coaches while he was there 4 years, or he was there 5 years, and he had different position coach like every year. And he said, hey, if you ever get the opportunity to go to a program that has consistency, like take advantage of that. And when I came to Ohio, found out that Coach Silich and Tim Albin, and at the time
Coach Burrow,
had all been there for such a long time, and they built something there, and they didn't look like they were ever going to try to leave. That was like, I mean, that's something that's really rare in college sports.
It is.
And been really fortunate to be able to go through, it'll be my 3rd year here, and their Coach Silich is still here. He's still, there's no talk of him ever leaving. Here's Coach Albin still here. Unfortunately, Coach Burrow left, but
for reasons everybody understands.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't really affect me.
Yeah. And you guys were fortunate enough to have an existing coach step into the position that Coach Burrow had, with Ron Collins. Yeah.
So it's been really, I was really fortunate, and that doesn't happen very often.
Right.
Especially at a program like a smaller school like Ohio, but I was really fortunate, and then the people here I found that out a little bit later, but the people here are great. So it's been a really awesome fit, but that's basically what it came down to for me.
Cool. I watched your highlight film from, I guess it would have been Edgewood. Yeah. It was on YouTube. It was comical. I told Pat, I said, you got to watch this because it looks like a video game. The scrambling was, I mean, there were times when you ran backwards 20 and 30 yards and then got out of it, and I thought to myself, don't throw your linemen are 20 yards down the field probably, and just went ahead and took off. So
it's like it was effortless. I guess that you hear people say that, but
I liken it to, remember when you'd watch Terrell Pryor run, the old Ohio State quarterback? Yeah. It always looked like he was running slow, yet he was blowing by everybody.
Right.
I don't know if it was the length of the stride or what, but
you were going slow, but no one could catch up with you. It's like they were.
And so it's not slow. It's just effortless.
Right.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah,
stuff.
You're hard to bring down, that's for sure. And that carried over into college as well. It's what's made you a big part of the personality, the quarterback personality that you have today. But speaking of that, it's no secret. I mean, you kind of downplayed it a little bit, but you walked into this building, and of course this is a communications building, so there's a lot of journalists here. So I know, all the students I work with recognize you and know who you are, and you're a very recognizable person. And there's a lot of ways that can become a positive and a negative in today's world with social media, all the social media platforms, and constant chatter and hype. There's so many ways for people to share ideas and information and opinions, and it can be it could be a good thing, I think, in terms of putting people, giving people the opportunity to have a wider exposure. But it can also be a negative thing and a distraction to your goals. Would you mind talking a little bit about how you keep those things from being a distraction to your goal? You're able to maintain focus. I noticed that you made a tweet in August saying it's time to get to work, and then that was the last time we saw anything from you on Twitter.
Yeah, so I don't remember when I started doing it, and I'm trying to remember if I started doing it when I was at junior college or not, but it was definitely my first year at Ohio. It may have been the year before that, but during the season, I noticed that Steph Curry and LeBron, it was specifically, I think it was LeBron, he said, hashtag #ZeroDark30.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When he goes in the playoffs, he deletes his social media. And obviously, there's a little bit different for us. So I said, hey, I'm just going to try it, see what happens. When the season came along, I just deleted all my social media from my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So none of the apps are on my phone. And so I've been doing that every season. And for me, it's I've never really been one to get motivated from negative criticism from other people, because I've always been intrinsically motivated.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of times it's the positive stuff that other people are saying, like seeing highlights of myself and doing that stuff that I'm so worried about trying to get that into getting into my head, because I always want to feel, I don't want to have any sense of entitlement.
Right.
So for me, that was always the biggest thing about, I don't want that to be in my head. I want to be thinking about, my teammates. I want to be thinking about, who we're playing next and not what I've done in the past. And so social media, deleting it, getting rid of it, has been a big thing for me. And then the other thing was it was just to try to get more relational. You know what I mean?
Right.
I struggle with the fact that I'm on my phone way too much, way too often. And there's good parts, I have the laptop on my phone that I use quite a bit, but I'm texting and I'm watching videos or on film on there. I could be talking to people, and I'm not great at that. It's because I'm always on my phone. So there's a bunch of different things for it, and I'm looking at the fact after the season, not bringing it back, just to see if that can affect my lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because when I go to pro training and stuff like that, I don't want that distraction anyway.
Right.
And but there's other reasons for it and stuff like that don't relate to sport, but that's the reasons that I started doing it, and I think it's been. I recommend it highly to anybody who just wants to get away from that stuff, because it's one of the best things, I think.
That's an excellent word.
Yeah, I think it's good advice for high school students too.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't an old man. This is 21-year-old college student who's saying he put his phone down. One of the best things I ever did was I did a week-long digital detox a couple years ago, and it's something that I actually do now. I just continued it. We went on vacation to a lake down in Virginia, Smith Mountain Lake, and I said, you know what? When we get here, I was using the phone for the map. So when we get here, I'm going to shut my phone off. I'm going to set it down on its face, and I'm going to stick it inside the dresser drawer, and I'm not going to pick it up again until we leave a week later. And that's exactly what I did. It's one of the best weeks of my life.
Yeah.
And you don't realize how much you're not missing. I mean, you might be missing a lot that's going on out there, but you don't need it.
Right.
You don't need all that stuff. And it forced me. The first thing I noticed was when I got up in the morning, a lot of times without even thinking about it, the first thing I'll do is just start checking stuff, email, different social medias, whatever. But I got up in the morning, I went, all right, I guess I'm going to go up and make breakfast. And then we were there with a bunch of family members. My mother-in-law would get up and she'd come out there, and instead of me staring at a phone while having a conversation with her, I had a meaningful conversation with her. And then we'd go for walks and do things. And I realized there's a lot of life that's missed just by that. And so thanks for reminding us that. So
That's awesome. I'm going on vacation after the season's over to see family out there, and that's something that, given the situation, like that's the time where I have to go and choose who I'm going to rip and all that mess. But I'm hoping that that's the time where I can do that.
Yeah.
Just I haven't seen those people in a while. That
Right.
would also be cool. I don't know what that's like.
I know. Your entire life has been digital. I mean, you've grown up in the digital age. Yeah. And I forget what it's like, and until you actually make an intentional decision to do it, you forget what it's like.
Yeah,
life is a lot. I tell you, the hardest thing was we kind of in the country, and there was a grocery store. and we needed supplies, like midway through the week. I'm like, I'll go get them. And I thought, I've got to draw myself a map because I would normally just type it in and just follow the GPS. But I actually got a map out and wrote down the directions to this grocery store, which is something I hadn't done since I was in high school, probably.
Yeah, it might be a little extreme.
Wait a minute, since I was in college.
Type stuff there. I don't know.
He's an IT guy.
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm probably one of the worst IT guys when it comes to technology at home. But I am on my phone way too much. I know that. I recognize that. But there was a time when everyone around me had a phone and I didn't have a phone. Yeah. And I've actually thought about just getting rid of it. My Facebook accounts and things like that. And
hey, it can be done.
It's like
life still goes on.
Definitely. The contact management portion of it was what always holds me in. But it's like I'm just going to use it for that, and then you're liking the Snow Biz commercial or whatever. I don't know what it is, but Nathan, one of the things that we want to do is help high school athletes prepare for college, and we've had some people on, and we always ask them for advice basically on what you would tell high school students to do if they wanted to become an athlete, a college athlete. And can you talk about some of the things that you did during high school, intentionally did to prepare you as an athlete in college, and maybe some of the things that you wish you would have done differently or wish you had spent more time on?
Yeah, absolutely. I had the opportunity a couple weeks ago to talk to some of the football players at Athens High School, and I kind of touched on this exact same thing.
Okay.
I think that understanding what your priorities are is so important. If football in schools, is your most important thing, then everything else needs to come second. So that's like, going out with friends and doing stuff on the weekends and whatever it might be, like that is secondary to those things. You need to make sure that those are your secondary things. And I talked to when I said the word I used when I talked to them was sacrifice. You have to sacrifice a lot of things if you want to get to where you want to go. You can't just do what everyone else does and expect that you're going to get to where only few people can go. You know what I mean?
Great point. Yeah.
And then I've always been so goal-oriented, so my mindset when I was in high school was that if I want to get a Division I scholarship, I have to behave and train and act like a Division I until I accomplished that goal. When I got to Ohio University, I wanted to be the starting quarterback here, so I did everything that I thought a starting quarterback should do until I got it.
Dress for the job you want, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, it was little things. So, like, if, a Division I athlete's going to study a little bit every night for his SATs, then, or he's going to do some kind of college level homework, and that was probably the equivalent of it, then that's what I'm going to do. If that means staying a little bit later after and running more sprints or whatever it might be, because that's the kind of shape a college athlete's going to be in, that's what I'm going to do. And when I was trying to be a Division I quarterback, if that meant being the first guy in the locker room, I would literally, me and the guy, his name's Quentin Maxwell, he was here before.
Yeah.
We're good buddies, and he's at IUP now. I joke with him because we used to try to race each other to see who would get to our early morning lifts first, because we were both really competitive guys, and I wanted to make sure that I was being the first guy there.
Yeah.
That's what I thought the starting quarterback should do.
Sure.
Those little things like that would try to get me to just try to act like that. So if I'm a high school athlete, I'm figuring out whatever it might be that I want to do, that I want to achieve. Maybe it's just being a college student. What does that look like? What does it look like to do what I want to do, whatever it might be, holding yourself to those standards, making sure that whatever you're doing, you're holding yourself to the standards of what you want to accomplish.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And that's how you have to do it if you want to expect anything out of yourself.
Right.
Man, I want to make sure this point doesn't get lost on anyone. So I'd like to reiterate a couple of things because this is huge. For one, you said that you made this decision in 9th grade. You knew this is what I want to do. So I know a lot of people who are listening are either fathers, mothers of kids that are in high school, but we've mentioned also we know we have high school students who listen, and they actually take some things from this. And people are changing some lifestyles because of this. And people have gotten in the weight room for the first time, didn't realize, it's an important thing for me to do if I want to be a college athlete. Well, it's an essential thing for you to do. It is absolutely true, and I've seen this, and I've seen this in two people specifically. I mean, learning more about Nathan's life, I see it in him, and I'm hearing it come out in him here. But I also saw the same thing in a guy named Joe Burrow, who went to Athens High School. Elite level people live differently than everybody else. They're different, and in fact, some people might look at them and think they're a little weird. Think they're a little bit because you're not doing things that most high school students do.
Right.
Come on, man, live your life, you know. But what Nathan just said was, if you have a big goal, it's going to require you sacrificing some things that most other high schoolers just don't want to sacrifice.
Yeah.
So you can't have that goal. A lot of kids say, "Oh, I've got a goal, I want to play in college." Well, are your daily habits matching that goal that you say that you have? If they don't, you either have to change your habits or you have to change the goal.
That's good stuff.
Because they've got to align up. And I see that. I mean, and what we're talking about here is just it's something called discipline, you know. You created a discipline. You said something about being intrinsically motivated. You don't necessarily have to have external motivators, which I love that, because I think external motivators are very temporary. People, truly motivated people, it has to come from inside. And a person who is intrinsically motivated creates for themselves disciplines. You know, they live a certain way. They create these habits. And you tend to think that discipline hinders you, like it limits your possibilities, because there are certain things you always think about discipline and things. I'm not going to do this. We think of it in terms of sacrifice, but discipline creates more. Jocko Willink, I love him. He says discipline creates freedom. Discipline equals freedom. And it's so true. High schoolers who are more disciplined, people who were more disciplined in high school, have more opportunities today than what the ones that I think back to when I was in high school. People who weren't very disciplined, they don't have very many opportunities. They don't have much freedom right now. They're pretty locked in to having to live a life of clocking in every day, you know, living for somebody else. The more disciplined you are, the greater opportunities you're going to have. The most disciplined high school student that I've ever seen in the last 15 years at Athens High School was Joe Burrow. Didn't do a whole lot of the kind of stuff that a lot of people did. He had goals, and he's living those goals now and continue to live them. I hear the same exact thing out of you, Nathan. You know, that's an elite level fact that you got to live differently. It's good stuff, man.
It's almost a simple decision, too. You're either going to do it or you're not.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. What go a little deeper if you don't mind. What really drives you? I mean, you talk about being intrinsically motivated. What are some of the deepest things that really drive you every single day when you get up?
Big picture or like small school?
Big and small, however you want, wherever you want to go with it.
I think the big thing is, and I made this commitment a while ago, but I think it's become more real for me in the last couple of months. Is I want to be able to have a platform where I can be able to, I can reflect God's glory, and I really do mean that. I look at people who are able to, have these great charity events and raise so much money or impact someone who's in a tough situation. And I, who was it? Teddy Bridgewater was giving out money to people who, in the neighborhood and stuff like that, who were very, less fortunate and stuff like that. And I look at that, and it brings tears to my eyes because that's exactly what I want to be able to do. But I want to be able to do it through football. And I think there's so many different. I was just doing a project about this actually. I think that sports gives such a great platform for role models for our youth in this country, and I think that can be abused in a negative way. And I'd love to be a part of those people who are doing the right things and they're making a positive impact, and I'd love to be able to do that in a Christ center. So as I wake up, as I do football, and as I get closer to that, that's what drives me. I'm also I'm a competitive dude, so I like to win. But as I've grown in my faith, I realize that that's not the only thing. The greater thing is glorifying Him. So.
I can see that in you, and I can see it growing in you as well as someone who gets the opportunity to see you in that context, not just the context of sports. I mean, your faith is very real, and it's a really refreshing thing to see, especially on a college campus where it's not always easy.
No.
So
No.
and in a role that you have, it's not always easy. So
Yeah. So I mean, and that's been, it's been a testament to the kind of people that I've been able to, or God surrounded me with. You know what I mean? I didn't really. It's funny because I was telling Brett Nicole this the other night. I said for the longest time, like, they lived down the hall from me for a year.
Yeah.
And I never talked to them because I knew what they were about. I wasn't ready to give up
Huh.
my lifestyle.
Yeah.
So once I got to know them,
You knew what was going to happen if you talked to
I
them.
knew how that was going to change my lifestyle. And so we
Yeah.
can kind of get into all that stuff, but it's been about trying to make a positive difference and do it through the sport that God's given me. It's given me so much delight.
Yeah.
It's given me all these gifts. And
I'm telling you, there are some high quality character people on the Ohio University football team.
Yeah.
Extremely, very mature, deep faith individuals, and
I almost feel like these questions we have aren't going to live up to anything else that we've talked about now.
not at all, man, not at all. Well, that's what happens. I think when you get somebody in here and you start talking about what really matters.
Yeah,
You
good
know?
point.
I mean, it makes hey, what are your goals about playing in the NFL? It almost makes a question like that seem minuscule, doesn't
Right.
it? Even
It's
though it would be
funny.
huge in so many people's mind, and it would be what people would expect us to talk about with Nathan, and we still want to, but I love the fact that you are driven by something so much bigger than football, and that's so evident.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about being a college athlete, Nathan?
Just I love football.
Yeah.
I love football. So just being able to play that, and it's to the point where it's pretty much a job, but not. I don't say that in a negative way. I don't say like, oh, it's my job.
Right.
Like, I get to do.
It's a fun job.
Yeah.
It's a job you love. Yeah.
Awesome is that after this semester, I'm gonna explore the opportunity of playing it as literally my job.
Yeah.
Which is like
It's a pretty cool thing to think about.
that
Yeah.
for a while. So as much as I'm going to miss this place, I'm really excited about the next chapter.
Mhm.
So that's what I love about being a college athlete is just being able to do that for such a long time and being able to do it with such incredible people.
Yeah. Let's talk about that since you kind of brought it up. What are your plans after college? Coach mentioned if you expected or wanted to go on and play in the NFL, or what are your goals? What do you what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the dream that I've had for a while is still very much alive. I'm going to pursue that as much as I can, and do it as long as I can, or as long as God calls me to. That starts with pro training next year, in the beginning of the new year, up until pro day, and then the draft or whatnot, and then if that's playing professionally in the CFL, if that's playing professionally in the XFL, whatever it might be, I just want to play as long as I can.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then I don't know after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
What are you graduating this fall?
No,
In December?
spring. So
So you're going to stay here through the spring?
I
Maybe.
I don't know yet. I would, as much as I would love to finish, just
Yeah.
based off what.
That chapter's unwritten still. That's okay. Yeah.
So I'm exploring different options.
What's your major?
I'm in coaching, doing the undergrad in coaching.
Yeah. So one of these days down the road, when playing days are over, like what happens to all of us at some point, some people get to choose when they're done.
Some a lot sooner than others.
95% of the people in the world do not get to choose when they're done. The game chooses for you. And do you want to coach then? Obviously, is that's something that's on the radar? Yeah. Obviously, you're not thinking about it right now, but you're preparing for it, whether you know it or not. Yeah.
Yeah, which has been cool because I communicated that to my position coach, Coach Isfording, and he now kind of teaches me what we're doing in a way that would benefit me as a coach.
Yeah.
Which is really, really, really cool of them. But yeah, I just want to. I mean, other than my parents, my biggest influencers in my life have been coaches or teachers, and so I want to be able to have that role.
Hear that, coaches?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Have that kind of impact in some way, and whether that's teaching and at a high school level and then coaching, or if that's just coaching at the college level, I don't know what that looks like yet. I know that that's the field that I wanted to get into because I find that it's been rewarding from the other end of it. Being able to sit in that.
I I thought you were setting up a future podcast episode.
Coach Rourke.
Yeah, Coach Rourke.
You'll be in here with gray hair and everything. Yeah, hopefully it'll be a long time from now. I suspect it will be.
Hopefully we'll be retired from doing this by then.
This will be our full-time job, right?
We'll have already made so much money doing
all the
it.
stars that we will have brought in by then. So, yeah. So I can tell you this from someone who absolutely loved nothing more than playing the game of baseball. I mean, it lived and breathed it, ate it, drank it, and thought that it was the end of the world on the last day that I played it, and immediately went into coaching. I never realized how much more I could fall in love with the game through coaching.
It's a different
thing. People will often ask you, hey, if you only had the opportunity to, if right now a genie in a bottle gave you the chance to play one more time, to suit up in an actual uniform and go back out and play in a big game one more day, would you take that if that genie said you would never be allowed to coach again? Yeah. In my 20s, I would have said without a doubt, I want to go play again. And I still feel that. I mean, when we play the old man's game, we got an old man's tournament that we play in the late summer, and that's still fun. So I'm thankful for those opportunities. But now, in my 40s, I say no way. I would love to go play, but there is so much that has shaped me as a person. There's so much that I've learned to appreciate about the games that I coach as a coach that I couldn't give it up. I couldn't return that and say never come back again. So you will. I mean, even when the game is over, you're going to find that there's so much more joy as you get older, and those bones get a little creakier, and the muscles are harder to keep strong, and all that.
Especially when considering what drives you, and
no doubt,
that underlying,
no doubt,
yeah.
Because coaching, the most important role I think in the world today is a coach, and I go all the way back to biblical days. I mean, that's exactly what Jesus was to 12 men that he called to himself, and that's what the role of being a coach in another person's life. Like you said, they've been the most important people in your life besides your parents and your family members. And I say the same thing. I know you do too, Pat. And so when you are that person for somebody else, that's a big responsibility. And as long as you have that continual drive to be the best you can be, and that comes from a place of great faith in the creator of the one that you recognize as your creator, then that's what makes that person years from now look back and say, man, that coach was one of the most important people in my life. Yeah. It's those deep things. So yeah. Well, I'm curious. I know that you committed to football early in high school. Did you play any other sports when you were younger?
I did. Yeah, I did. I played a whole bunch. I played soccer when I was young. That was the first sport I got into. I played baseball for a little bit. I tried out for the travel ball with the travel ball team.
Yeah.
I got cut from that. That was when I was about, I think it was second grade or something like that. So,
oh wow! So yeah, that's
interesting.
That's a young cut, man.
So
and then I tried out the next fall for football.
Uh-huh.
So I was like,
you're hooked then, right?
That was it.
You're like, the heck with this baseball stuff. Yeah.
So.
Baseball's tough in Canada. Brock's got a few Canadian teammates, and it's interesting to hear them talk about high school baseball. He said most of his friends don't even play high school baseball. They play on travel teams, and they'll go down to Florida and play tournaments. And the kids that play high school baseball may get 8 or 10 games in a spring.
Really, I still think that's a very.
Do you find that to be true?
Well, my high school didn't even have a baseball team.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
interesting.
I mean, when I was there, they did. When Curtis was still going through school, they had it later, but not when I was going to school.
Wow, that makes it almost even more odd that, because here's the point: we have a Division I starting quarterback that was cut as a young
athlete. Yeah,
let that
I didn't
sink
think about
in.
that. Yeah, yeah.
For all the people out there that
people say Michael Jordan was cut. He wasn't cut.
Nah, that's fabrication.
Right. He just didn't get to start his freshman year.
Right. But
JV team.
Right, he was on the JV team. Right.
But it's valid. I mean, people think that they can look at a kid when they're 8 years old and say he's going to be an athlete or she's going to be an athlete. You really maybe you
Yeah.
can sometimes, most of the time, but you really don't know the full story.
true.
You know, you're not going to know.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
How long did you? So when did you? Was it ninth grade when you narrowed it down to one sport?
No, I played basketball all the way through high school.
Awesome.
All the way.
So you're a two-sport athlete.
Yeah, and then so the way that it was structured in Canada was that this was all the way up until ninth grade. So after that, I only played two sports, but we would play high school football in the fall, and then play basketball in the winter, and then we had a spring/summer league of football that we played.
Yeah.
I would play and then go right from that to high school. So like I played 2 different seasons, and that was like a travel ball
Yeah.
rep league
Yeah.
that we played. That we played more teams, but it would be like more of our local guys would come together and we'd all play, and then we'd break up and go to our different high school teams. So that was from like 5th grade or 4th grade till 9th grade. I did that, and then I only played 2 sports after that. So
Yeah. That's multi-sport athlete.
Yep,
That's we are advocates of that. So
definitely.
yeah. I don't know. I'm not I've done some things on specialized sports and stuff like that. I'm not big on that.
Yeah.
I think you just play as much as you can.
Yeah.
You can get so many different skills from different things,
yeah.
and not only that, just like interacting with different people and
Yeah.
building relationships with
Right.
teammates and being able to work with different people. Because I might be able to relate to a football player better than I can a basketball player.
Right.
I might have to relate to that kind of person when I get to.
Sure.
Yeah, and facing that struggle of relating to the basketball player when you're not comfortable with it is going to help you when you go.
Yeah, Pat has often made a great point about multi-sport athletes, and that is there's going to be a sport that you're not as good in, and that struggle actually helps to build. It works to make you a better football player if you're struggling in basketball. If you're not the best basketball player, you're going to bust your tail to try to be the best basketball player, and that mental struggle that you have, that mental, just all the toughness that it's building in you is actually going to make you a better football player.
You know what it does? It just provides more challenges to you.
It provides more challenges to you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was in high school in Canada, I played on a team we had 2 Division I basketball players. 2. One played at Pitt, and I think he transferred somewhere else, but he was at Pitt, and the other one is actually plays for the Knicks now.
Oh wow.
Oh, really?
He went to Michigan. He got drafted, R.J. Barrett and him, so he was a second-round pick for the Knicks. So he's at the Knicks now. So I played with him in high school. He was unbelievable, but I didn't have to do a lot of the scoring. So the only way I was going to be able to be on the court was that if I played defense and I rebounded, and that's what I did. I hustled.
Yeah.
You'd have probably been my favorite player on the floor. Watch that team.
I played the 4, but I was I was the same height as I am now, so I was small 4.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to do the little things to be able to be on the floor.
Right.
Just distributed. Let those guys play the offense. Let me.
Yeah. You played a lesser role to make your team better, and you embrace that role. Yeah. Right. I'm okay with it. Yeah. That's awesome.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is good. Good stuff.
Completely different role.
No doubt. So growing up and playing all those sports, one of the questions we try to wrap it up here, but we don't let anybody leave without answering this question, because it's a podcast that's built around helping to create a better culture for youth sports. And one of the things we always love hearing is what have been some of your, I guess if you could narrow it down to one, it doesn't have to be the most favorite, but what has been like one of your favorite memories from growing up and playing youth sports? And it could be any of those sports. It could be any memory, any sport, soccer. I mean, and it doesn't have to be related to the sport, but just growing up being part of the sport. What is a memory that comes to mind just as soon as I ask the question?
A lot of them came because I was being really fortunate to be on some really successful teams that I played with with the same group of people, same coaching staff, same group of guys, and it changed really every year. So it was cool, and we won a lot. Like we had a lot of undefeated seasons. So it was really cool to kind of be on that and just be with those guys and stuff like that. But the coolest thing might have been in youth sports was when we got to high school. When I don't know if that counts as youth sports, but
yeah,
when I got to high school and I no longer played with those guys anymore, going and beating them. We played travel ball with a nearby. It was called Burlington, so that's a little bit further away from where I live, and we had to travel there, so a little bit further away. But I went to high school in Oakville, which is where I'm from, or where I grew up, and they played in the Burlington High Schools. So when the Oakville High Schools and the Burlington High Schools would play each other, obviously it was all them, and then I was playing. and their coaching staff. So when we went to go over there, it was always fun.
Yeah, you're playing with house money. You're like, hey, if I beat you, I'm doing this all by myself. Yeah. You got everybody. Not really, but no. The people you're most competitive with are your best friends and family. I saw Curtis last night on the way out of Peden Stadium. I said, hey, we're having Nathan on the podcast tomorrow. We should have had you come in as well. That could have been some interesting conversation. He said it had just been competing we'd been competing for the microphone the whole time.
We had an AIA. We did AIA this summer, and we had like I don't know what we call it, a slapjack. Is that a card game? Slapjack?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we had a slapjack tournament. Curtis and I played each other, and
broke a finger.
People thought him and I hated each other from that. And we said, no, this is just a regular thing.
Oh yeah.
This is game face, right?
So Curtis is a freshman here. Tell us for a second about him.
Yeah, we have an awesome relationship. So we're really, really close. We're not very, I can't tell. We're like about 2.5 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's a quarterback as well. He came from Canada rather than going to the States.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people think that he came from the States, but he came from Canada, and yeah, he's taller than I am. He's a little bit differently built. He's built a little bit different. He's longer, but he's got a really good arm. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. He's going to have more time than I did, so I'm hoping that he breaks all my records.
Oh, that's cool.
Because he's got more time, and I think
if anyone's going to break him, that may as well be your brother, right?
Well, that's going to make for awkward Thanksgiving dinners, though.
It's like the Manning family. Yeah, who gets the last word in that family? So that's cool.
It's been awesome. Yeah, the fact that he's here and he's made the senior year really cool. It's just having
that is really cool.
You can tell that he is your biggest fan. Also, while he likes to compete with you, I'm sure. When you come off in the games that I watch on TV, like when you guys are away, I haven't got a chance to go to any of the away games this year, but when you come off the field after a touchdown or something, it seems like the first guy to give you the hug is your little brother. It's kind of cool to see.
Yeah, it's been cool because last year he was still in high school and we were kind of competing for stats. Still.
Yeah, right.
He'd tell me how many touchdowns passes or whatnot. He was tearing it up.
And you reminded him you're playing against high schoolers, bub.
But now we kind of go through the week in terms of preparation. We go through the practices, which can be a grind, and he understands what we put in effectively to be able to have the results that we do, and he knows how much it means to me. And so when we do have success, when we do support, when we do all those things, and we're fired up. He's the kind of guy that is going to get fired up with you. That's just him. That's the kind of character
awesome
person he is. He's going to be just as fired up. So.
Good teammate.
Yeah, it is.
Very good teammate, because he did the same thing when I was in Alabama. He came down as well because my mom moved down with me, and so he didn't get to play that in his 10th grade year. He just sat because he was behind the coach's son, and he kind of moved away for no reason.
Yeah.
Wow.
All his friends in Canada moved into Alabama. Had a tough year because obviously he wasn't there for his reasons.
You spend that year in the weight room by any chance? That's what Mark Ripto says to do, right?
Take a year off and lift. That's right.
Yeah. It was definitely, but it was tough for me. The whole trip was centered around my
right.
It was easier for me to transition, but for him, he was just kind of dragged along with it. And
wow.
And then he went back and was able to finish. But it was just a testament to the kind of person he
was.
Be able to go. Because I found out later that it was a very, very tough year for him.
Sure.
Socially, all these different things, but I didn't know that when I was going through it.
Yeah.
He was just so supportive.
I'm sure he has his own dreams, right? And he set those aside for a minute.
To have him on
we will definitely have him on.
We will.
We definitely will. Yeah. And we absolutely look forward to his next 3 or 4 years here. I mean, as of right now, he still has the redshirt status, probably because he's not been in a game yet. So, you guys need to work up a big lead so we can see him on the field.
I know. I'm trying. I really am.
I know.
Really am.
I know.
We had a lot of them last year.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's a tough schedule. It's that. Yeah. People are. You can say what you want, but the MAC is tough.
It's yeah, it's good. It's a good league.
It's legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good. Yep.
So
A lot of parity.
I agree.
Yeah.
Has there been anything that you've maybe wanted, knowing you're coming into the podcast today and you had a chance to talk and, to whoever listens to our, these sports-minded people, but also just we have good people that listen as well. We have a good audience. Anything that we didn't talk about that you'd like to leave us with?
Well, kind of just going off of it, because we kind of talked about a little bit about what student athletes do to prepare themselves for college or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit of a word of advice for me in terms of how my growth in faith has changed kind of the way I go through things. So I think I've told you this, Chris. I struggle with, I still kind of do, but I struggle with anxiety and nervousness before games, as any athlete does. But the fact that I've been able to grow in my relationship with Christ has allowed me to be able to put all those worries and anxieties and surrender that to Him. I think it's made me a better player because I've been more composed. I've enjoyed the game more. And I wish that I had done that when I was in high school. I wish I had done that at junior college, and I wish I had done that my first 2 years at all. Because it was really only at the beginning of this year where I really said, this is what, I slid it across the table and I said, this is what I want to do. God, take this from me. Take everything that I want to do, take that from me. I surrender to you. And when I did that, pressure was instantly lifted. And this weekend we were playing Ball State and the weather was horrible. It was horrendous. And I was throwing in warm-ups and I could not throw a spiral. And it was just eating at me. And I was really nervous about it because I knew that our game plan was that we were going to throw the ball anyways. And I said, God, you're going to be throwing the ball. You're going to be doing everything for me today. I'm relying on you. I'm relying on your strength. I can't do this by myself. And the first throw was not ugly, was not pretty. It did not get there, but there were some throws in that game where I don't know how they got out there because I was throwing better spirals than I was.
Yeah.
Wow. And so things like that happen.
Yeah.
And so as a high schooler, I would just encourage you to pursue your faith because it's not something separate from sports. It's very much something that you can do to glorify and worship God.
Absolutely.
I feel like every time that I go and play or every time I have practice, that's an opportunity to be able to worship Him. And because it's something that He's given me the desire to do, and when I do that to His benefit, I think He gets a lot of delight out of that. So I would just encourage, I know that's a long, convoluted answer, but
it's a great answer.
Yeah, it is.
just encourage everyone who's trying to be an athlete to give all of that to God and just see what happens, because He'll do some pretty cool things.
Absolutely. I want to tell you something, Pat. One of the most awesome things too was to be witness of or witness to Nathan giving that exact speech to the entire Athens high school football team.
Yeah.
And unashamed, unabashedly, this is what drives me, and this is what's going to make you a better player, a better person. And it was really cool. It was cool also to see a good group of offensive linemen and teammates standing behind you too. As you're giving that talk, it's like if you don't listen to me, any number of these guys will come up and tell you the same thing, right? But it's always good to have that community. But yeah, I know that you were nervous about that, but you did a fantastic job, and I love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Well, from my experience, one of the great things about doing this podcast is it seems like as we go through it and bring people on and talk about the things that we do, there's always things that come up that you're just not emphasizing enough in your coaching life or your athletic life, and man, there is nothing greater than that concept of your faith, and how important that is to you as a person. It can make you do a lot of great things, help you do a lot of great things. Great advice there. Thank you for that, Nathan. Appreciate it.
thanks for taking some time with us today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, wish you the best the rest of the season. Go Cats.